Awesome. Well, welcome everybody to our third series of herbal medicine. And I would just take it out. Yeah.
Okay.
There's
a worm in that one. From a little hole that it went through.
More protein.
No. Yeah, welcome. So we're glad you're here. Today's topic is respiratory health. Hi, everyone online. Gonna try my best to be online and also in person. It gets a little confusing, but yeah, I think having the precious beings of the plants and the foods here really helps us be grounded and present here. I wish people online could smell some of the stuff that is here. Welcome everyone. My name is Chasity. I'm from the Pueblo of Acoma, and I've been doing a lot of work, mostly studying and learning from herbal plants, and really focusing on our respiratory health. I think is really important now, you know, with COVID, even though COVID starts off as a respiratory thing, it also leads to so many other complications. And so I'm someone who's still dealing with complications from COVID a year and a half later. So that's really what inspired my journey, you know, working with the plants. And one of the things I'm realizing a lot is everything that I've needed for my precious lungs and the connection to my body has been showing up for me around where I live. And I really wanted to bring that type of groundedness and intention here with you all today. So yeah, I've been growing mostly food and seeds for the past few years, and this year I created a medicinal garden to really, you know, with that idea of giving back to the plants because they give so much to us when we really study them, right? And be in relation to them. So yeah, today's focus, like I said, is respiratory health. And you know, I think when we think of respiratory health, we think of our lungs, but it's so much more than that. It's really our lungs, and our ability to grasp our breath is connected to our kidneys, is connected to our heart space, is connected to our immune system and how well it is, how nourished it is. And so a lot of the plants that we have here today aren't, you know, they have the affinity for the lungs, but they do so because they have an affinity for other parts of the body. And so we'll learn that as we go. But yeah, I know that there's a lot of knowledge in the room virtually as well. So please at any time chime in through the chat or yeah. And we're finding worms. So yeah, I wanted this to be really integrative. So we're gonna go outside because there's actually glow mellow that we're gonna use today growing outside. And I want people to see it and like just see how it grows and see how to harvest it.
Oh, friend, you're not supposed to be here. I'm gonna go put this outside.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, does any actually I want to get to know you all here. So we want to start with introducing yourself. Yeah.
Sure. I'm Allie.
Okay.
Do you want me to share?
Yeah, I can share where you're from, and what respiratory health means to you.
Well, I'm originally from the East Coast, Maryland area, and then now live in Santa Fe. And wow, I think I take it for granted, respiratory health, I think. And I was really fascinated by what you were just saying about like what to take breath and what is our lungs are doing all the time for us underneath, you know, the surface. So to just be able to breathe and to feel that life force coming into us every moment feels really important. So I want to learn some more.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Charlie.
Do you want to say where you're from?
My pronouns are he, him, it. And I'm not exactly sure what else.
Where are you from?
Mamasia.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. You wanna introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Bailey, pronounced them, and I'm currently living in Santa Fe. I've been there for 2 years, but I'm from the southeast mostly. And yeah, lung health. Yeah, just I really appreciated the idea of just it being integrated with everything, and just the breath is so holistic. And also as someone who does a lot of breath work, just like the power of breath and healing like emotional wounds as well. So yeah.
Thank you for being here. Do you want to introduce yourself, Salvador?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Delovai. I am the Environmental Health and Justice Program Manager here at Women United. I am helping Chasity host this and facilitate this workshop. If you guys have any questions, I will be answering them in the chat, or Chasity can answer them out loud. And respiratory health. Oh, I'm also from OK Wingate Pueblo. I'm also Hopi, and I'm Dene as well. I come from Spider Clan, Summer Clan, Bitterwater Clan, and the Striped Coal and the Division Clan, or Redding and the Water Clan. And respiratory health is very, I take it for granted as well, for sure. But I realized over the years with all the fires and like with COVID and just like other bad habits, I want to take care of my lungs better, and just I want to live for a while and have healthy lungs. And so I've been learning as well. I haven't been like too much into the herbal medicine. I've been kind of in the background. So yeah, don't mind me. And then she.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Kaylee. I also work here at Two with Delovai. I'm the Environmental Health and Justice Program Coordinator. I just started last week. So I'm a little helper today. This is my first herbal workshop in the series that Two is doing. So I'm excited to help out and see all the people doing.
And what does respiratory health mean to you?
Ooh, I think I'm also similar to Delovai. It's just coming to the forefront of my mind, like after COVID and all the fires, but I also have a sibling who's asthmatic, so I'm interested also in learning these ways to see, better ways to support him.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here. People in the chat want to answer the same questions. You're welcome to state where you're from and what respiratory health means to you, who you are. Cool.
Tell me your plans if you guided me.
Cool. Okay. Well, let's get started. I think we could start by talking about what we're going to do today. So we are going to be making cold infusions, which is basically using water to help the plants, like help the medicine in the plants. It's a really gentle way to consume the plant, and you basically, an infusion is like when you make sun tea, what do they call it in English? What is kota? Like what is it in English? And afterwards it's called tushkawi. But yeah, when you make that, you just put it in some water and put it out in the sun and let it sit for however long. Usually infusions, they tell you like 12 hours, 14 hours, but it's just as long as you think, right? And so that's what we're going to be doing today, but you can also make a cold infusion with the moon. So there's using the solar and the lunar, I don't like to use the word energy. I can't find another word, its power. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do today with the glow mellow. So the glow mellow is a beautiful, beautiful plant. It's right in front of you, right there. That's like a couple weeks drive that I harvested. in that's good. Back home in Acoma, and I'm sure that a lot of you have seen it. If you live in New Mexico, we're gonna go outside soon and look at it, but it's a really tall plant that has orange flowers. It's called glow mellow for people online. And if you know what it's called in a different language, please tell us, or if you can. Yeah, so it's that plant right there. This is it looking a little bit fresher. When did y'all harvest this one?
2 days ago.
Cool, so this is 2 days ago harvested. See, it's like tall, it's so tall. But these parts of the plant, the flower and the leaves are really awesome to make the infusion. And so the glow mellow plant, it has, what is it called? It's like mucilagical, it's something, it's like mucilage. It's really, how would I explain it? Wet, right? It's like really wet. So what it helps do in the lungs, it really helps moisten the lungs, moisten the lung tissue. And it also helps like you modulate the immune cells in the lungs. So that's sort of the way that I understand its medicine. And so the reason why we're making a cold infusion with it is because it helps with that moistening effect. So we're only going to make a cold infusion with it's also really similar to what we have here to the marshmallow root. They sort of have the same effect. It's really moistening. So if there is, some kind of like dryness, especially with the wildfires, when that happens, our lungs tend to get pretty dry, depending on how much we're inhaling the smoke. And it's also really difficult to notice. It sort of takes a while, like if you're out and then you come home, right? And then things feel tight, things feel dry, eyes feel itchy, you feel a little feverish. That's, a sign that you're taking in too much smoke. And so what the cold fusion is helpful for is that it's cold and you just drink it like a drink, and it really helps with the dryness. And so what I want people in person to do, we could use the more freshly harvested ones. If you want to take like maybe 3 of the stems, and then just take off the leaves and the flowers. You could use a paper towel.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And then as you're doing that, I also want you all to open the mason jars and just pour your water in there. So
Multiples or just one?
you could use, yeah, maybe 2. Since other people are coming. We're expecting 9 people, 8 people. Yeah.
With the stems, is it like the big stems are just kind of the little,
Yeah.
would that be enough? Just one
Yeah.
of these counts as one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then just like take off the leaves and the flowers. But yeah, does anybody have any other thoughts about the glow mellow online? You can also unmute.
Hi there, this is Melanie. I missed at the beginning. You said something about putting it in the sun or letting it sit in the sun. Was that right? I didn't catch that.
We're making an infusion. So it's using the sun or the moon to really help in water, and it really helps bring out the medicinal properties of the flower and the leaves. So in our first series, we talked about the different ways to sort of, use the medicinal properties of the plant, and the infusion with water is really good with the flower and the leaves. And then what I have cooking in the kitchen right now is the root of the glow mellow. And so when you use the root, you want to boil it, right? You want to use heat to make it faster. So I guess what we're doing today is making like kind of the same medicine, but like, and one is like how long it will take if you use the sun or the moon, and the other would be as how long it would take when you use heat in the kitchen. If that makes sense. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you're able to get all the leaves from the stems, what I usually do is, well, I don't have it with me, but I usually just, get the stem. Well, this one's super dry. I'll use the stem for that. But yeah, I'll just take the stem and then we have an extra jar. So what I have cooking in the kitchen right now is the root. So if y'all see this, this is the root of the glow mellow. It's right here. And the root, especially of the glow mellow, is very, very strong medicine. You can smell it for sure when you harvest it. It's just like beautiful. So yeah, so usually what I do is just, I'm not the most clean person, but I just like take it off like that. Yeah. You all want to make that? Yeah, sure. Okay. I'm okay. You're okay now? Yeah, cool. You look at the root is, so what I have cooking is the like just straight root and the little stems that come off of it. But usually like when you make different kind of herbal tea mixtures and stuff for respiratory health, a lot of what people are using is the marshmallow root, the licorice root, and the glow mellow root. They sort of have the same like effect in the lungs, but what they're using, especially if you get it from the store, is the fruit, but just like finely chopped up. So, yeah.
Rather than being heated and like.
Rather than being heated, and when it's heated, the medicinal property is like being sort of simmered. You'll see it. It'll turn brown. So I've been heating it for like 15 minutes, and I'm gonna heat it for probably another 15 minutes. Yeah, so I would just scoop it all. Sure. So once you've done that, let's see how much of it. Oh, they're also cutting pears. You can't see, but they're cutting pears too, because the pears are gonna go into the decoction that we're doing with the root of this plant. Because pears also have the same sort of like mucus. I'm trying to come up with a better. Mucilaginous effect. Yeah. In my mind, it's just like wet, like it has the like wet effect when you have something dry, like smoke. And what I'm figuring out too with respiratory health post-COVID for me is that it sort of feels like my lungs are struggling to sort of like modulate themselves. Like sometimes I'll wake up and my lungs are really sticky and wet, and it's hard to get air in that way. And then other times, and it's just dependent on the weather. So when it was, when we did have those fires in the beginning of June, it was really difficult for me to go outside because I'd be outside and then like my lungs would just get super dry. Like they're just having a really difficult time. Yeah, I think just like it's intelligence to regulate like the type of air is what it feels like. There's like a lot more science that my doctors know about, but I'm just like, okay, like this is how I understand my lungs are feeling. So what this does is helps when I'm feeling that dryness, and then I make another syrup when I'm feeling wetness, because wetness can also prohibit you from breathing well. Cool. All right, so you have your herbs. You want to put them in your little jar. I'm gonna put mine in there too.
Hello, I'm wondering if I can ask a question.
Yeah.
Okay, you just mentioned something about syrup
Yeah.
to help with the balance of wetness.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah. So what we're making in the kitchen, which we'll get the camera in there too, is a decoction. So it's really helping get the medicinal properties of the root where a lot of the strong medicine is. And so when you make that decoction, you add honey to it to have that sort of like sticky content, and the honey helps preserve the medicine that is like decocted or that comes from the root. And so that's like the last step to making a decoction, I guess, is adding something that will preserve it. And so the ways that I learned that because one of the herbal classes that I was taking, they made an elderberry syrup for acute COVID. So they were making a mixture of elderberry, the licorice root, the marshmallow root, and a bunch of like citrusy, like oranges and lemons, almost like what is it called? Fire cider. Those elements, they were putting it and they were making a syrup out of it with the honey. And so, yeah, they were using that in acute COVID. And so I was like, okay, well, I want to try something that's specific, like a lung syrup. And so I researched different herbs around me that would help, that have medicine in their roots. And one of them is actually the one that we have here too that we're going to use is the grandelia or the gumweed. And so I made a gumweed honey and then I turned it into a syrup. And that one, I noticed that with the syrup content to it, it really helps when I drink it, when my lungs are feeling wet and sticky. I'll drink the syrup, like I'll heat it up just a little bit or I'll just drink it. And it really helps like clear up that wetness, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm sure there's like, when we had our first series, we had some awesome herbalists here, and they were sort of explaining that process of why the glow mellow and the marshmallow in particular are really, and the grandelia are really intelligent lung affinity herbs where they sort of know what your lungs are needing. Like I said, if they're needing dryness or if they're needing wetness. And so I'm not sure what that term is called, but it's a term in herbalism where the plant is really intelligent in that way. Yeah. Okay, cool. So y'all did it? You fill it to the top? You should fill it to the
All the
top.
way up?
Yeah.
Okay.
With globella?
With the water.
With
You
the
can put
water,
more
okay.
glow mellow too. This is how much I'm doing.
Okay.
I'll usually make like one of the, those big mason jars, and I'll fill it like 1/4 of the flowers and leaves, and then I'll cover it with water.
How long have those been dried? You said just like two or 3 days. Okay. So
We-
that's enough to be dried out before you use it for this.
Yeah, and you can totally make infusions with fresh herbs. Yeah. Especially the glow mellow, especially herbs like where you're using the flower power of it, because that's when it's,
That's the best, right?
Yeah.
Like all the nutrients are in the
Yeah.
leaf, yeah.
totally fresh. Cool. So this is what a cold infusion looks like. Super simple. Just water and your flower and your leaves of the glow mellow. And so you want to put this out, if you're making it at home, you want to put it out tonight. I've been making infusions with full moons. It's just like, I don't know, I feel like that really helps with it. But yeah, you can use the moon tonight or the sun tomorrow. And then what I'll do is, once it's sat in the sun or the moon for as long as I want it to, then I'll strain the flowers and the leaves.
Would you want to do it like at night, like during a full moon, or like during like a crescent moon, or?
Yeah, well, when I was like starting off, I was like asking like, do I do it this way or this way? But I just started doing it in the full moon, like I put it out in the full moon, and I realized that that's when a lot of, like, that's when, because this will turn orangish.
It'll
orangish brown.
extract it out.
Yeah,
Okay,
and that's
okay.
when I noticed it was more orange and brown.
Whoa.
Yeah,
So
cool.
cool.
it's super cool, right? And it makes sense. It's like, you know, when the sun is out and hot, it's the tea starts to brew a little bit quicker. And I think the same effect with the moon.
Wow.
Yeah. Does anybody have thoughts on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes total sense to me. I'm gonna go lay out the moon.
Maybe your energy
So
is
charged.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a thing.
Cool. Cold infusion. And then I pop it in the fridge after you strain the.
Hmm.
And then you just drink it for as long as you need it. And of course, you can add like the marshmallow root, the licorice root if you want. I do that just to make mine a little bit more potent. But I wanted to share what's local and easy and accessible and has the same effect. But yeah, my love is for glue. It's just, it's abundant too.
Mhm.
Yeah, you've seen it a lot.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
How long did you say you leave the plant in the jar?
So I would leave it in the jar all night, let the moon do its work, or I would leave it for like 10, 12 hours in the sun. And then of course you can leave it longer if you want it to be a little bit more potent, but it'll start to, what is the term? It'll start to smell vinegary. It'll start to smell, what's the term? When you make kombucha, what's that? Ferment. Ferment. Yeah. Oh, like what is that term? It'll start to ferment and you'll smell it. So that's when you know. I left some infusions for like 3 days just because I forgot. And I opened the jar and it's like, whoa. It's super fermenty.
Could you do like overnight and then some sun to do both?
Totally. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But I would say, and it depends too on the texture or the type of herb. So we have, because we're going to use the other herbs soon, but we have like the licorice root. Usually they're super grinded to where it's like really, really thin. And for those ones, you don't want to have them too long in the moon or in the sun. Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Are OSHA and licorice the same?
No, they're not.
You want to explain your plant knowledge on that?
Yeah, if you wanna. Well, licorice root comes from a fern, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not indigenous to this particular region, but OSHA is, and OSHA is in the carrot family.
APAC family, right?
Yeah.
APC, cool. I write that down.
And licorice root would be what family?
Licorice.
Glyceriziae.
Okay, awesome. How are we doing? Good? Yeah. All right. So we did have the apple cider vinegar out because you could add some of that. But I don't think we should do that. Yeah. But, okay, cool. Any questions?
Why would you preserve?
You
like,
would use it to preserve, but after. Yeah, so I just calculated.
The suka. So after you're done with the infusion, you can put some apple cider vinegar in.
A little bit.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got some at home.
Cool, okay, well, let's see, next, we're going to make a decoction of the glow mellow. Like I said, the root has, like, with any, I'm realizing with any plant, the root has a lot of medicine in it. And that's why they're very special. And so, the ways that I'm learning is that you totally don't harvest the root if you don't need to. Because, yeah, you're taking sort of the plant's longevity, and we want these plants to be around for as long as we are, because they have so much value. And so, this is what the root looks like. We're gonna go in the kitchen to see it boiling here soon. But what I wanted to do before that is to, for each of you, do we have the open herbs? So, yeah. Each of you to take a spoonful. You have your little, oh, you use them. Their paper plate.
Well, which root? I can
Or,
take which herb.
We're gonna do all of them.
I don't know if we use that one yet. Or we'll use that one.
But not this one.
I don't know yet.
Thank you.
Here's okay, so what we have here is licorice root. See it? What you want to take one scoop of it. Or 1, 2 scoops. So we're making, this is like not my expert, this is where I'm not an expert with math, but we're making 2, so there's 2 pots on the stove. And we're making a, when you do a decoction, what I'm doing is 6 cups of water that we're using. And what I have boiling already is the root to the glow mellow. And so when you're making the decoction with 6 cups of water, you want to do like 2 cups of herbs. So that's sort of how I think of it. If anybody has any other thoughts or ideas about that, please chime in. So the way I've like calculated how we're gonna take out the herb for 2 cups of herbs, I have that in my head. So yeah. So 1 scoop of licorice root. And then the other one is the marshmallow root. You want to take 1 scoop of that.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we're gonna take 1 scoop of the mullet. So what we're scooping is mullet, and you can use the leaf of the mullet. The flowers, they grow really pretty yellow flowers. I wish I had a picture of it, but mullet's a beautiful plant. I've discovered it grows in the foothills of mountains. It grows in soil that is really drainable and movable. Yeah, do you want any other thoughts about mullet?
An invasive species, still native. It helps the lungs. It grows in disturbed areas. We were trying looking, disturbed areas, like, people walk around, and it's a biennial plant, so it grows like a base leaf first, and then the next year it'll grow the stalk. And then you want to harvest the leaves and sometimes the flowers too. Right, we went to go look at the EHFO Espanola healing food oasis for them, but they're not growing there right now. We don't know if we should grow them there. Because they might take over, in the mountains, they're all over the place.
They're tall, they'll grow like 10 feet tall.
And they have that, like a bunch of kind of bushy seeds at the top? Is that what?
The flower.
Flower, yeah.
The
Okay.
yellow flower.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do look bushy. Yeah. I do have a picture.
I have a phone on me. Yeah, I think we all have our phones on us.
Yeah, if you just wanna Google mullet, you could totally do that. But yeah, I have some growing in my garden. I grew some, so I've been using the leaves. With the mullein, the leaves are really furry and have little like fur hairs on that. So mullein is spelled Mullidin.
P-I-N.
Pin. So you want to be like cautious of that because that can irritate, the like frill birds and using high amounts. But I've been using the leaves. There you go. There's mullein. I've been using the leaves. Oh, mullein. Yes. Anyone have any thoughts on it?
People use it for toilet paper.
Yeah. The leaves will grow like this big.
They're soft, right? Yeah.
Then take a scoop of the yarrow. So the yarrow is the little like, is this? And harvested that one this morning. Smells so good. But yarrow, I was talking about this morning with a friend. Yarrow is an awesome medicinal plant. It has medicinal affinity for the lungs and the bloodstream system, the cardiovascular system. I believe what it helps do is like help stimulate or dilate like the blood vessels. So you'll like notice when you start working with herbs, some of them are like stimulating, right? So that's when you get into conversation about when to take them, when it's sort of, you have to be a little bit more cautionary when taking them. And so yarrow is one of those plants where I just by working with it, realizing that it's stimulating. And so you want to use yarrow a lot in the acute phase of an illness and not taking it long term. So like things like plants like mullein is pretty gentle where you can take it fairly regularly, but then yarrow is, yeah. And you can totally like understand why after you smell it. Yeah, and work with it. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on yarrow? No? No. Anybody online?
Cleans the blood, right?
Yes.
Pulls the blood out, like for bruises, like if you put the leaves on there, and you like put water, like put a stick on there, like you can take the bruise out. Like, or and then people use yarrow for a lot of things, but that's mainly the one is the blood stuff. It grows high in the mountains. I've only seen it grow like, up in like in the Santa Fe area, in the Alpine, more towards that way, or Taos. A lot in Colorado for sure. I don't know. Do you have anything to add?
This is the harvested from the flower, the stuff that we have in here. And then you're saying that the leaves are what's good for.
I think you can put both the flower and the leaves, but I've heard people just using the leaves.
One thing that I wanted to add about yarrow is what I'm experiencing oftentimes is that if I push my body too much, like if I do too much physical activity, then the next day I'll have to completely rest. And sometimes if I overdo it, it's accompanied by a fever. It's just, I think my body's way of telling me like you overexerted yourself, which is interesting because I used to be very active, but like just still in this recovery phase of COVID. So what I've been doing for myself is making, I would boil the mellow roots and then I add some yarrow in there. And then I'll add some snakeweed. Yeah, I don't know what well, I guess it's called simply in English, but like sometimes think of things in the Acoma language. But
Is it also witch hazel?
no,
Okay, never mind.
no. Snakeweed is what is called in Spanish. Does anybody know what it's called in Spanish? It's more known that way.
Brush, the yellow brush.
Yeah,
Canela?
it's. We have some here.
Herbal de serpiente. Is it that one? That's like the
No,
literal translation.
but snakeweed. I don't know. Just Google it. It's called snakeweed. But it grows a lot. Or I have a picture of it actually. It grows a lot in Acoma, so I'll take some of that. I have some of it dried, and it grows a lot in our field. So my dad would always cut it and just be like, "Oh, this weed," and I'm like, "That's like really medicinal." So yeah, so the snakeweed and the yarrow, and then the glow mellow roots, and I would just make a tea out of it, and it really like helps the fever. I don't know, it's interesting too when I do get a fever because I don't like to rush the process because I think the fever is like an indicator something's going on. So I just take a rest. I'll drink some of that tea and that helps it out for me. So yeah, and then if you think about too, like because I have a lot of anxiety about getting COVID again because it's really knocked me out and I'm still recovering. So I've been trying to understand or think about ways to take care of myself if I were to get COVID again. And I would say that mixture is really something that I would do to help with the fever part of it. Because I know a lot of people this time who are getting COVID, they have a really, really bad fever. And so, but then again, like, what is our relationship to our bodies and what it's saying? What is the fever about? So yeah, I don't like to like rush things too much too. But anyways, so y'all added yarrow to your plate. So we have mullein, yarrow, licorice root, marshmallow root. We have pears. Dang, we have a whole gang. Cool. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our pears and add them. So if you think about how to make like decoctions or anything herbal, you want to think about cooking. So like what you add first, right, to soups, it's like your carrots, your celery, your roots, things that you want to cook. And then last you add like your you cook your meats and then you add your meats. But yeah, so just thinking of it in that way. So we're gonna just cook a little something here. So I have cooking the roots. We're gonna add the pears, and then we're gonna lastly add all the chopped up herbs. Sound good? Cool. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, and put your video on. I will pin you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm getting that, I think. Okay. That's the glow mellow root.
Do you wash it or it doesn't really matter how much you wash it? 'Cause
It depends on where you harvest it from. Of course, you want to harvest things where there's not a lot of disturbance and potential.
Yeah.
So, but I try to harvest things where I don't think there's a lot of disturbance, so I don't have to wash it so much.
Okay.
I'll just like rinse it and then put it in it. So just FYI, that's what I did with these. I just rinsed them.
Yeah.
But I have been drying these for probably like 2 weeks now.
Okay.
But you could totally put it in after, or I would actually wait with the with dry. Yeah, so that's what it's brewing. Of course, it gets darker if you were to brew it for like 2 hours. But this is a good start point for a tea, and I know we were having a lot of good conversation about wildfire season or fire season. And so what this decoction helps is that sort of that immediate release or relief, because you'll drink it more as a tea. And then, like I said, then you add like the honey and stuff like that to make the syrup. Yeah, so let's add our pears in there.
Go ahead and dump it.
Yeah, just dump it. You could dump together in that one. Cool. So we'll let that cook for like 10 minutes. Nice. I'm just gonna stir it a little bit. Have y'all ever had cooked pears?
No, but I'm like,
Yeah, I don't think in like a tea.
yeah, my family hardly gets pears.
Gotcha. This is like my second time trying it. Okay, cool. And then we're gonna let that cook for a while. But I think for the purposes of time, we can add our herbs now.
Just go ahead and put it in.
Yeah. Okay. But what I would do is wait until, like 10 minutes before you're going to turn on the heat.
Okay, usually.
Yeah, yeah, but for the purposes of time, add all the herbs in there. You can go ahead and add yours.
In here?
Yeah, add yours. Into that big one.
This one? Yeah. How long did you say the root had been cooking?
They've been cooking for like 25 minutes.
Okay, gotcha.
Probably 30 longer. I put them like on 5 minutes before it opened. But I turned up the heat to high. So for the purposes of this workshop, I'm gonna leave the herbs, the pears, the root, all of it on high, probably for another 20 minutes. And then we'll come back and see what it looks like. Yeah. Cool. And usually usually this process will take like 2 hours if you want to do it well. And what I would do is take the glow mellow root out and then let the pears and the herbs cook by themselves. Okay. Yeah.
So at that point, you would probably take the roots out and just let.
Yeah.
the rest.
Yeah. But I really want the medicine and the root to really come out. Yeah. Does it look good? Oh, and we could also add, well, let's just keep it simple.
And you were saying you could do like a few hours with the root and then add the other.
You could, yeah, you could do that. Yeah, like you could do sort of like cooking if you want, like for the roots, you could cook the root for, I don't know, 45 minutes and get the brownness of it. And then that's when you'll know like it's ready to add the other herbs. Yeah. Yeah, does that make sense? And then what I did, like I said, to make the syrup is to add the honey, right? But I added the honey so what I did was take how do I explain it? You take the medicine from these after you strain it, and then you add the honey, and then you mix it in there, and then kind of to your like stickiness liking. And then that's sort of like what adds the syrup element to it. Yeah. With the water. Yeah. And then I stored it. I have another big jar. It's like the syrup, and I call it my lemon syrup. Yeah. Yeah. Go. Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments or knowledge they want to share? Cool. Okay. Do y'all have any questions? No? Cool. Well, We could take this part of our workshop outside, get us moving around a little bit. I want to show you all the glow mellow that where am I showing you? Yeah, so we're gonna go outside.
I'm gonna put your camera on again.
Or how about we take a break before we go outside?
Okay,
Maybe like 4
back at the 6:09.
Yeah,
Okay.
If you guys want a snack or a drink, we have some on the table, you walk by and you're looking at.
Is it, we're held to shake it or is it not a good idea?
I would shake it when you like see it again.
Okay.
After the hour.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You go, I'll show you.
Thank you, sorry.
Complicated. No, no worries.
Welcome our folks back online. Hi, everyone. So, yeah, let's take a breath.
Can I ask another question while we're waiting?
Yeah, afterward.
Okay. So you guys had said that this is part of or an extension of a series that you guys have already had. I guess when I read the flyer, it said that this was like the first of the series, or there has already been one workshop prior.
Could you repeat your question? It was a little low. Maybe you could speak a little bit louder.
I think I also heard, I think they were just asking if it was the first workshop in the series or if the others had already happened.
Oh, yeah, this is the third workshop. So the first one we had was also on respiratory health. And that one we made the gumweed honey that I was talking about, or the Grandelia honey. And then we also made something similar to what we're making today, but it was just the tea. So it's sort of like what we did today, but minus a step. And then we drank the tea, huh? Yeah, we drank the tea there. And the herbs are similar. I think there was like we added cordyceps, some mushroom to it, and we added the Grandelia leaves and the flowers. Talking more again about the herbs or the plants and the food that has the intelligence. And so that's what I was learning about the mushrooms. I'll add the mushroom to my syrup a lot too, because it has that intelligence to over the course, because you want, there's like the acute illness that affects your lungs where you have a really dry cough or a wet cough that you want to use herbs like the osha or elderberry to really help with that cough. But the things like cordyceps, the mushroom, the Grandelia, the mullein, those are all awesome herbs to use over time to really help your lungs understand what it is that they're needing, what type of clearance they're needing, what type of strength that they're needing. And so that's sort of what we talked about in the first series. So it's recorded, I believe, on the website, YouTube channel?
Just
Oh,
Jessica.
cool.
YouTube channel?
Oh, yeah.
The very first one didn't get recorded on accident. We thought we were recording it, and then I think when we pressed pause,
Yeah,
it didn't record the other half.
gotcha.
Yeah, so we
Gotcha.
have to make sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, but that's essentially what we did. With the Grandelia honey, we what I do is just put like a third of the Grandelia in a jar about this big. And you could also make like a mullein honey. You could also make an osha honey. But what I did was put the herb like a third of the way and then they're a little bit smaller than this, fill it to the top with honey. And then what you do, well, not all the way to the top, what you do is just like mix it every day. Right, for like 2 weeks, and the honey will really help get the medicinal properties of that. And there's your honey. Some people leave in like the osha, or they'll leave in different parts of it. You can do that if you want.
Did you
But-
strain it otherwise, or you don't?
You would strain it otherwise, yeah. But you would strain the Grandelia out of it, yeah, which is this plant right here. Which we should have added to our mixture, sorry about that, but you can smell it. Oh, I see it. And the cool thing too about Grandelia is if you harvest it and you sort of play with it, it's like super gummy. That's where it's made from. So the flowers are like really gummy, and so when you make the gumweed honey or the gumweed syrup, it really has that medicine of just being like yummy. Yeah, and you can really feel it. It's my favorite thing, especially if I'm feeling, because the last workshop we had with Jessica, we talked a lot about energetics of our bodies. And so thinking about, again, what is it that we need? Because I think oftentimes, like in herbalism, people will be like, oh, that plant is good for this. And then, you know, you don't really know how until you actually feel it in your body. So the thing that I've noticed with the gumweed honey is that when my body is feeling like cold and damp inside and I'm needing the syrupy, like my body will tell me that. And when I drink it hot, it really helps like my body to grasp my air better. I don't know, it grounds me a lot. So that's
You
the cool
keep the
thing.
honey?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So there's a syrup, right, that I was talking about, but then we made a honey the last time. And I just put the honey in the tea. I will put it in that tea that we're making. Yeah, all the medicine, all the beautiful
Cool.
medicine. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna take our workshop outside. Go outside.
No, I don't.
You just take the laptop. Okay.
I have to plug the owl and everything.
Okay, we'll do this.
I can do my phone too. Yeah, myself.
Oh, watch out.
They're so cute.
I bet.
I think it's this
Yeah.
They're gonna say like, how long ago was 2018?
So it's online. What we're doing is looking at the glow mellow that we've been working with all evening.
Awesome knows.
This is the glow mellow. It'll grow sometimes taller than me. This tall. I've seen it grow this tall. Of course, that root is a lot bigger, thicker. And I'm realizing that the thicker the root, the less work you have to do. Gathering the medicinal properties. So, well, I hope it's okay that I. Like little mellow. But yeah, so what I'll do is just like take off the stamp like this, or what I've learned is just to take off the flower and the leaves like this. So there's a lot of like naked glow mellows that come up. Because they're just being me like going around taking them. But I believe it does. Cool. Yeah. I mean, my knowledge as a farmer is if you take the leaves or flowers, you encourage it to go back. But I know some plants don't. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has knowledge of how this goes. Yeah. So you just did it. And this is let it dry for your cold infusion. And then yeah. So another like cool technique also is just gathering the flowers and making the infusion with that. But yeah, sometimes I'm lazy. but the flower and the root really has the good, what did we call it? Useful in it. Long.
Longevity. Oh.
Useful in it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
useful
useful
in
in
it.
miscellaneous.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But actually, I want to show you all the root.
Kaylee and I did pull it out from the root.
Yeah? Here,
Yeah.
from here?
No, from the HFO.
Oh, okay.
You can pull it out from the root here.
Okay.
And then you
Little
just,
baby root. Okay. I'm gonna dig this a little bit. Yeah, that one that I have boiling. But I've seen some, especially at the Busquet in Albuquerque, that root was like this big.
Wow.
I was just like, geez, they're loving all this rain.
yeah.
Oh, look at it through. Ooh. Long one. Wow. You made it. Yay. Thank you, Plaid. What I've been doing is when I do this at home, when I get the root of the glow mellow, I'll plant like milkweed or I had some glow mellow seeds. I'll replant some seeds back in there. Especially along the ditches, but I haven't gone back to see how they grow. But you know, that idea of how do we get back to the plants? And my thing is, well, grow them. Especially in the spot where you're harvesting. Yeah. Anybody have other thoughts? Get back.
Water 'em. Pray for rain.
Love them.
Mhm.
One thing I noticed too, like she was before, and she dropped one. She dropped an ear, and she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, it like broke, and then she was like gathering each kernel. It was like outside in the ground and the sand, and she was gathering each kernel, and I was just like, wow, that's like pretty awesome knowledge to be very cognizant of that, like not to take these things for granted. You know? Try to get, if you drop some, try to get all that you dropped, you know.
Cool, cool, cool.
Is the seed like when these dry, or do they become the seed? Or that's what the seed has.
These are my favorite, one of my favorite seed pods ever. They're called cheese wheels. And you can see why. There's a little seed tucked in between each little section there.
Little seed in here.
If you
Oh,
construct it, there's like black.
wow.
Oh,
That's so cool. And that was just like right up in that
there was,
little.
like, right
Yeah.
here.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
So there's
okay,
black
I'm gonna
seed
show.
in there. I can show.
So these little things.
The cheese wheel.
These
There's a seed.
awesome.
Kind of broke it.
Oh, it's so tiny.
Just a little.
It's tiny.
Yeah.
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 Do you know what this one is?
I don't know.
That one is very abundant in my grandpa's garden.
Yeah.
This one? That's a sunflower.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is. I have to like cross check it.
Kind of like, oh, that one.
That's the only thing I
Oh, it
found
might
that's like
be.
similar to it, but I don't. What is it? I don't know for sure. But maybe Mexican tea? Yeah.
Hmm.
And then those are sunflowers.
You have a whole garden back here, naturally.
Thanks for joining me in this house. Not excursion. I'm trying to find the name. I know a lot of names and I know a lot of the verbs I work with, but I haven't. I'll follow y'all. Herbal, I don't know. No, don't put the berry on that one.
Anybody online have any questions? Cool. Well, we're gonna go check on our.
Is there anything you can do with them after you boil them?
I'm sure you can boil them most of the time. But at some point I would just give it back on the TV. The remote. Cool. So I don't know if you can see, but yeah, if you were to let it stop cooking, let it cool off for a while, then you can, where you just add the honey to the right, whatever feels good. That what really will make the syrup.
And that was 6 cups of water?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. About 6 cups. I usually just kind of see like with the root, once it starts to brown the water, and then, or if I'm using herbs and some of them like make the water really green, some of them black, some of them make it blue. It just depends. But that's sort of like how I like to see when it's ready. Yeah. Well,
Will you have the recipes posted online for us to view?
yeah, I can post it online. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna let it cook a little bit longer. And then we'll strain it.
It smells so good in here.
You can smell the pears, huh?
Yeah, I know you talked a little bit about the benefits of adding the pears. Yeah, I'm struggling to recall.
The
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about how, like when pears are really juicy, they're really juicy and wet. So it has that. I actually learned it from a mentor of mine when I was trying to care about what I was struggling with. He's like, "You need to find pears." I'm like, what? So I like looked into it and I was just like, oh, they have the same type of like property, the affinity of being what's the term we used? What's the term? Mucilaginous property. Yeah, I'm sure it's called different because it is a fruit, but it has the same type of effect.
Whoa, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I don't know what it would be called because it's a fruit, but
I'm guessing it adds to the flavor too.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes it taste
Yeah.
delicious.
Yeah.
And if you think about making, like when I learned about the elderberry syrup that people are making for acute phases, this is also really helpful for an acute recipe because it's, easily like, it smells good, it tastes good, so you want to take it, especially for children. You want to help entice them, take medicine that you're making, and a lot of herbs and roots and stuff are bitter. So adding something that's sweet will help.
Where'd you get your pears from?
From home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Melon.
Yeah. Akamalan.
Do you grow them?
We have pear trees outside our house.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That's our
Perfect.
house. Yeah, and the glow mellows from Akama too. So everything around us. Cool. All right. So someone asked what we could do with the root. I said we could probably boil it again. And then at that point, just give it back to the earth. Okay. Okay. How are we doing on time? Okay. Cool. So our last step here in terms of working is we're gonna strain it and then see what it tastes like. Yeah. So until then, does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
How long does this stay good for?
So I would store the decoction, what we're making right now, for a few days, like 4 or 5 days, and drink it. I would drink it like during the wildfire season or when smoke is really thick around you. I would drink it every day. I mean, it's hot, right? So you want to like use some of it now and then let it cool off and store it in the fridge or store it somewhere cool. I would store it somewhere cool and then drink it right away. I mean, right away meaning like within 5 days. If that makes sense. But what I was explaining earlier with the honey to make the syrup will last like a month. So adding apple cider vinegar or honey really prolongs the medicine.
Do you
So,
think
yeah.
it could be frozen like the water infusion?
Well, can it be frozen? Is that the question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like if you make a bunch of it and you have too much.
Right, possible. Yeah, I feel like the cold infusion you can probably freeze it. Yeah, I don't know with the decoction. I don't know. Something tells me that it might. Yeah, I feel like when you freeze things, it kind of loses its I don't know. Who knows? What do y'all think? That's a question for the audience. Yeah. I think the cold infusion totally exists, like make a popsicle. I'm saying from it. I don't know about the decoction. Yeah, that's a good question. Like that. Any other questions?
The elderberry that you were saying, you can make the syrup.
Yeah, you could totally add elderberry. Adding elderberry makes it sweet. So elderberry is awesome. It's another plant like elderberry, things like elderberry and echinacea, things that are all related to how you can support your immune system, which, and then turn like supports your respiratory system. So elderberry has that effect. It will really help boost the immune system. And so what was interesting in learning about the elderberry syrup is that is what they're adding to their respiratory syrup was the elderberry to help their immune system. But I personally feel like I'm not like advanced in the way where I'm like allowing people, I don't know how to explain it. There was research that was put out that elderberry had an effect with acute COVID where it sort of exacerbated the COVID, which is interesting. But then a lot of in my studies,
a lot of indigenous herbalists that I've been like studying with or learning from, you know, they have a different view. And so it's interesting to be in that conversation of what like academic research is putting out with herbs and COVID, and also what we're experiencing in real time, and what indigenous people are sharing and their experience too with elderberry in particular. So that was a really interesting research and conversation. So yeah, so I invited elderberry into this space because I think it is an awesome addition to what we're making. Yeah, that's my thoughts. What are y'all thoughts?
I don't have anything, I don't know anything about elderberry, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm still learning.
yeah, yeah. I know with the berry, it's a berry, right? So you would harvest the berry and then you would let it dry out and add to it. But I know sometimes when I don't make my own respiratory syrup, I'll go to Sprouts and they have they'll have like a wild cherry bark, which is also an awesome, wild cherry is really good at helping blood flow. So it's good for like fevers and headaches. Anyways, they have wild cherry syrup and then they have an elderberry syrup. And both of those have a lot of the herbs that we're using today. And then the like holding herb or the holding plant is the berry for the wild cherry bark. So that's sort of where my inspiration comes from too. But yeah.
And you would add it to the hot.
Yeah, for sure. And then with the elderberry syrup, you want to add a lot. So I would say we added, yeah, I'm not good at measurements, but I would say as much as pear as we added, you would want to add a similar amount of elderberry to this. More or less. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then I wanted y'all to smell this plant because this plant I'm excited about. I think we have this growing at the Hidden Food Oasis, huh? So this is Yerba Mansa. So this is, I want that one to dry out. But if you smell it, Yerba Mansa is awesome as well for the lungs. I know that before I got COVID, I had like 2 rounds of strep throat, which is not fun. So Yerba Mansa, I mean, you could totally smell it, but it's pretty strong. And it has just like, it's a very fresh smell. Right. These are this morning fresh. Like we're sipping this morning. So sort of to help with, so strep throat is, the way I understand it, kind of, it's a bacteria sort of respiratory issue, illness. And if you notice when you have strep throat, you get really sick, you feel really feverish, you feel very just like migraines, you feel very, your immune system is having this like, I don't know, it's freaking out a little bit. It's at least what I noticed with strep throat. And so a lot of recipes that I've been looking at for strep throat include Yerba Mansa. And if you think about strep throat being pretty intense, you want to think about like the different types of plants that are also pretty strong, right? Like the Yerba Mansa, oregano, Mexican oregano, like that mixture really will help, I guess, clear out the bacteria or really help with the respiratory intelligence, I guess. So it's what I think and what I've taken when I read it. Yeah. But I'm learning how to work with Yerba Mansa. There's a question, I think.
Yeah, so I see that you guys have the bulk of the herbs that you guys are using are obviously freshly harvested, but you had mentioned earlier a little bit about incorporating cordyceps and mushrooms. And I was wondering if you guys have like a local apothecary or if you guys recommend maybe an online apothecary that carries cordyceps in bulk. I am located I'm in Tongva territory, so Los Angeles, and I have a couple of POC like connections that have excuse me, like mushrooms in bulk, but not cordyceps. I haven't been able to find cordyceps. So I'm wondering if you guys would be able to lead me in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a good question. Where I get my cordyceps is this place in Albuquerque called Red Root Acupuncture Herbs, and they're an indigenous owned herb store and just all around healing place. But yeah, about that. I think there is this conversation going around about like, you know, when you work with herbs, the way I think about it is it's like that idea that you don't want to take too much or you don't want to over harvest. And I think things like mushrooms, definitely with the elderberry, like when COVID first started, people were in the OSHA, people were really harvesting a lot of those because mushrooms are a really awesome immune booster food. Like you can eat mushrooms, right? If you cook them really well, you can eat them. And so I think because of that, there's sometimes low supply of especially the cordyceps that I use. And I actually didn't know about using cordyceps until I was talking with my functional medicine doctor who's helping me a lot with seeing what's local. And so she was talking about how the cordyceps, like I wouldn't find them around Acoma, but that they're a good addition. So anyway, all to say is that that's where I get mine. They're usually in low supply. So when I do use them, I use them in the syrup because I know it'll be prolonged and I don't have to use a lot of it. And so, yeah, but I know at Tongva territory, the herbalism course that I'm actually a part of, they're based in LA. So I could totally see they have like a register of places to get different herbs, and I could send that to you. And maybe you could just do some like online, like looking to see if they have cordyceps. Yeah, anybody have other thoughts? Maybe people online, if you're like not local, if you have other thoughts about getting cordyceps or mushrooms. I don't know if that was helpful.
No, it was, and I think it brings a greater conversation at hand, which is like you really want to work with things that are local to you, you know, to be as sustainable as possible.
Right.
I've grown mushrooms. Mushrooms are pretty easy to grow if you just get the spores. I mean, you could have a ton.
Awesome. Where do you grow them? Or where are you?
Like I'm in Colorado, but I grow them in tubs.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, I feel like mushrooms are abundant. And so it's interesting too to like be in this space where, because I also do like food work and seed work, and I like see the abundance in that. And then so it's interesting too to like go to the store and then things to be in low supply. So I think it totally brings up the question or the conversation about like, yeah, that disconnection between things being abundant, but also again not wanting to abuse that intention or that yeah. But the cordyceps are cool. They're like little slices, and I know. So cordyceps, you can use cordyceps. You can also use shiitake mushrooms. So shiitake mushrooms are more, I guess, like in the culinary like field of things, but they sort of have the same effect as cordyceps. So I've been like cooking shiitake mushrooms, and with mushrooms, like I said, you really want to cook them before you eat them because that helps with the medicinal properties of the mushrooms, and it has an overall like affinity for the immune system, which then helps them. Not wrong. I don't think so. I don't know. Shiitake. I feel like
That paper out there.
Or any
I feel
mushroom,
You can be mushrooms raw, right?
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Okay, what else?
What else? Yeah, so the cold infusion, like the cool one that I made was low mellow, licorice root, cordyceps powder, mushroom powder. That was a really awesome infusion. And it really helped a lot in July when it was very hot. And I would take it in the morning. I would just drink like, I don't know, two gulps of it. Yeah, but with that mixture, it totally gets fermenty. So it gets fermenty in like 3 weeks. So you totally want to drink it quickly. And then keeping it cold helps a lot. And so, yeah, I would say with the fire season, taking cold drinks, taking the cold infusion, or you could totally like heat up your cold infusion too, if you wanted to do that. I realize drinking the decoction we're making or a heated up version of our cold infusion, something like that has a little bit of heat, like for me, it really creates the effect quicker. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that's all I have to share about the herbs. I wanted to ask you all what ways do you think that we how we can further take care of our respiratory health and our lungs, and not just thinking about what herbs have an affinity for the lungs, but thinking about like holistically, how do we take care of our respiratory health? I know that the lungs, when they're struggling, it has a lot of, at least for me, an emotion to grief and anxiety, which I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm like, I'm a very anxious person. Like I never used to be, and I'm very anxious every day. Like I said, with the threat of COVID, and then when the fires come, I get very agitated. Yeah, I feel like I'm trying to work on that. In addition to my physical illness, I think I have developed a mental and emotional just imbalance. And so for me, it's been working with that grief in particular, working with why am I taking short breaths every day, all day, without noticing, and what is it that's piling up inside of me that I haven't been able to sit with. And so for me, it's a lot of grief. I've had a lot of loss, and the grief of, not being the person that I used to be. A lot of death in our communities. COVID has just really, has not been a good time for anybody, but for sure I've seen a lot of death and illness because of COVID. So, and it's all connected, when we think about our forests burning, when we think about the trees being sort of the lungs for us. Yeah, that's how I see the connection. So I try to write about it because sometimes it's so overwhelming. But working with the herbs also helps release that too. How about you all? What do you think? What kind of emotional, mental ties do you think it has? Respiratory. We're just making up words here. Yeah. Anybody want to share?
Lungs are like super special. When we get, for us, like Pueblo people, we give our breath in everything that we do, and after we dance, everything that we receive, we give it life pretty much. And a lot of us Native people struggle with respiratory issues because of the pollution of the land and all the smoke and this air and stuff. And I think like Native people are more likely to get asthma than other races. And it's, a lot of people in the community struggle every day. And, when we don't have our breath, we can't give that life into our dances, into our community, into ourselves. so we here at Taylor, we've been making those air purifier boxes for the community. So we've been trying to like focus on people like the elderly or those who are struggling with COVID or immunocompromised. And so that way they can, keep using their breath, so that way they can keep participating in their spiritual traditions and whatnot. And if you're not participating in that, you're more likely to have these negative thoughts. They say that 80% of kids who are more into the traditions people who are more into traditions are 80% less likely to commit suicide. And so just like that alone, says a lot. And and I think holistically, training your lungs and like higher elevations and just being around like all the trees and stuff, that can also help the lungs. But I also know like there's been people who died, who were runners, who were hikers, or who've always trained in those kinds of elevations and stuff. And we don't know why. We thought they were healthy, but it's just really sad. For sure. Y'all got anything?
Anybody else online?
I would, one thing that this has been making me think about is like the beginning I was mentioning, a few of us mentioned that the breath or lungs feel like something I take so much for granted. And but like I know when I take a deep breath, like everything shifts in my body. And if I'm feeling anxious, that's just one of the most powerful ways of just like bringing my whole self to the ground. And so now I'm just thinking about that, it's always there for us. It's kind of just like this thing in the background. But it is always present, always there. And just having that, even outside of, meditation, I sometimes do meditation, but I think it's not even just when you're sitting and meditating, it's just any time throughout the day to be able to like pause and just take a deep breath and notice what that does for the system and like where it's moving oxygen in your body and thinking of ourselves as like really alive, how alive our cells become when we bring in oxygen. I'm just gonna have that, I think, more in awareness after what we've been talking about. And the grief, or thinking about like what lungs are maybe helping us process and feel. I know you had mentioned emotions and lungs, so I'm curious if there's other feelings that people notice with lungs, but I'm always interested in like, what gets held in what parts of the body. And I could totally relate with grief being there. Also because the heart, it's, right, protecting our heart or around our heart. So
very like a release. Like I notice when I do breathwork sessions for like 20 to 30 minutes, I often cry like almost every time. And it's just, kind of just clearing that, whatever's stuck. It's really powerful. Yeah.
When I was really sick for like 6 months, I couldn't cry. I didn't have the lung capacity to cry. And it was just interesting because I'm a very like emotional person. So now when I'm able to cry like on demand, I feel so grateful. I'm like, it's so interesting when you like what you're sharing. Like I really love what you said about our breath always being there. And I remember at one point where that was true, but I couldn't access it. And so how do we search for that like gratitude for it? Because without our breath, what is I don't know. That's sort of what inspired this whole journey for me, is like trying to find the healing really challenged with like breathing, And that's interesting too, because I know a lot of people like talk about breath work and how helpful it is. But I'm like, well, what if for those who are struggling to grasp it?
Yeah.
What happens then? Because I know I couldn't cry for a long time and I was going through such a hard time. So it's like all that stuff was piled. So now I'm just only able to unearth what I experienced. So, thinking about people whose lives are really challenged. How can we help them to
Yeah.
Right.
Extra support.
Yeah.
Awesome. We got Karen Weber saying, I teach elementary school children and many of them have asthma, including crying.
It's interesting too, because I'm in this place where I'm like, how is my physical illness feeding into my mental, or like, I don't know, like some days I'm like, is this just all in my head? And then other days I'm like, no, this really happened, or this thing is really happening. But sometimes it is like connected with breathing anxiety for sure. Okay, well, we could close by straining our decoction that we have brewing, and then we'll taste it, and then that's pretty much it. Yeah, we have like 2 minutes for people online. If you want to stay a few minutes after to see the straining process, but yeah, you're welcome to. But you don't have to. Yeah. So thank you all online for coming and sharing the space with us. I really appreciate it. You have any
Thank-
questions?
I'll go for it.
The next class is, we've been trying to have them the second Sunday or the third Sunday of each month. So it'll either be the second Sunday or third. I have to ask the other herbalists for thoughts. Yeah. And she's gonna choose the topic, so I don't know what it is yet. We've been letting them choose what they want.
I think it's emotional grief stuff, emotional health.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Last session, we made an ox meal, which I have here. Or this is one that I made at home, but I was taught how to do it here.
Cool.
Yeah, so oxymills are like tinctures, but they use apple cider vinegar and honey instead of alcohol. So what I'll do with this is strain the herbs and then put it in little tincture bottles. And it's from what I've learned, like a food. It's really gentle. You can take it in that way. And this one is for like the nervous system and stuff. I grew some milky oats. And I put milky oats in there with some basil, and Tulsi basil, and I put little Grandalia flowers. Just for fun.
What is this called again?
And oxymel.
Oxymel?
Yeah.
OXYMEL.
Cool. Thank you.
And I think we do have a recording of that workshop if you want to check out.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, that one was also for grief. That's on the YouTube
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah. That one was with Jessica. She used to work with. She's an awesome community worker.
So should we go check out
Yeah.
the stuff? Wow.
Yeah, the fun part of all this. My sister is like, And you'll notice too, like with your measurements and your timing, like with this, there was the appropriate amount of water. You just let it cook. And then the other thing which I didn't do is adding this. It's in the medicinal properties. Yeah, it'll go back in. That's probably. So, like, I don't know if you can smell it, but like, if you imagine adding honey for the syrup, then it will get fermented quickly. So, yeah, you kind of see what it smells like, how it smells, how long you should keep it before it starts. I mean, fermentation is also like that. Doesn't taste. You know what I mean? Yeah. Straight up. Yeah. That's why I was curious about the freezing question. So like, I think that would be a little bit too long. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you would, one, taste and then two, like medicinal property. So yeah, look, it's just like, I don't know how many times it's maybe like 4, 3. Yeah, so 4 from around 12 cups or 6. Yeah. Somewhere. Oh yeah, here we go. Some of that gummy honey. Take it home to my family. It's not straight yet. What's the herb? I'll take this one. Yeah, I would add the honey to this space. It's straight up. Very different. I'm doing it because I'm like learning how to.
So yeah, I would
Like
actually
to sweeten it or drink?
well for the syrup. Yeah,
Ah,
to make a syrup. But I mean now it's like a decoction, so it's like it's well, it's for a tea, but you can still have honey. But it's also probably sweet because it's there.
what ratio of honey?
That's a good question. And the first time I didn't run enough, so it was too syrup, too watery. But with this, with four, I would yeah. Yeah. I just think this is a good nutrition. Yeah, yeah. Maybe even the licorice. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you want to say thank you?
Thank you all. Yeah, for thank you all for coming. Come to our next series and enjoy if you need it. And I will add the recipe and then I know someone is gonna have the register up where to get different foods. Have a good evening. Thanks for coming.